Welcome, Tarot fam, and my astrology intrepid travelers. Tonight, we are going to look at a very unusual political story. Spencer Pratt, former reality television star, is stepping into the political conversation around Los Angeles, and it's looking like people are loving it. The approval ratings for the debate the other night between the incumbent Karen Bass. There's another player involved, another individual. So it is a three-pronged election. But Spencer Pratt is showing up as the dark horse that everybody seems to be keen on. He's running on a Republican ticket, and he's bringing a little bit of Trumpism to the table. I do believe one of the candidates said that he was a MAGA Republican. I don't know if he aligns exactly with that. There was a few expressions that he exhibited that seemed very Trumparian. But regardless of how people feel about Spencer Pratt, there's something undeniable about this astrological period for Los Angeles. Los Angeles itself seems to be entering one of the biggest and most significant energetic and cultural transformations in modern history. Y'all know, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, I did live in Los Angeles. I lived out in California. It didn't take, but I lived out in Los Angeles at the end of the 90s and the early aughts. And I did love it, but I never assimilated. I am an East Coaster. I never really assimilated into the culture there. But I did note that many of my friends have migrated out of the city in the last few years, including one friend who is a born and bred Los Angelian. And that individual said, this isn't my city anymore. I don't recognize it. I don't feel safe with my family here. So it's really unfortunate that the land of milk and honey and the seat of the entertainment world is crumbling before us. But all things must come to an end. So the astrology for the city, strangely enough, is showing that it's moving away from polished celebrity politician. And I'm doing that all in one word, no spaces, no hyphens. Polished celebrity leadership, and it's moving more toward a disruptive energy. Typically, conservative political candidates don't represent a disruption. Typically, they are hearkening back to conservative and traditional values and views, but because Los Angeles has been a bastion of liberalism, it looks like Spencer Pratt is playing this amazing role of a disruptor in a city that has amazing potential. So thank you for coming in. My name's Annabelle. I'm a tarot practitioner and psychic for over 35 years. I am a newly studying astrology student. I'm actually studying it in a very academic manner. So for the year of 2026. So we're going to be adding a lot of that into my psychic readings. There's a psychic component to astrology. So just want you guys to know that. We do use astrology as the weather, and then we're going to use psychic, tarot, I Ching, whatever you got. We're going to use that to direct the traffic on that. So for decades, Los Angeles represented like the pinnacle of glamour and success and reinvention in the United States. One of the things that I experienced when I went there, my ex-husband's friends took me out for lunch and they said, "What's your backstory?" And I said, "What backstory?" They wanted me to write a backstory. And I said, "I have a pretty interesting life. I'm not going to write a backstory." They also were very insistent that I needed to drop my age by a few years. And one even proposed a plan where in the next few years before I turned 30, I would be 5 years younger. And so I'd be cutting off a year. Strangely enough, Alyssa Milano and I believe we were the same age at one point, and now she's a little bit younger than me. So maybe I should have done that. People move to Los Angeles to chase fame, entertainment careers, wealth, opportunity it is a big place. If you've come there, if you arrive in Los Angeles to live from any of the flyover states, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but any of the Midwestern states, anything that's outside of a metropolitan area, you're really bowled over by the amount of wealth and the ostentatiousness of the celebrity component and the well-heeled in Southern California. You're really taken aback by it. Orange County, very similar, but that's a much more conservative outpost in the left of the country here. So in recent years, Los Angeles has dramatically changed. Some are saying that the golden age of the modern age was the end of the 90s, the beginning of the 2000s. I tend to agree. I was out there, I was having a blast, part of the entertainment industry, the machinery there. It was really a lot of fun. There was a lot of stuff going on. It was very decadent, very expensive, but, you know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. So since my departure, no correlation intended here, the city has been associated with rising crime, increasingly visible homelessness, affordability issues, frustration with leaderships. Businesses are leaving in droves. Famously, Elon Musk pulled up roots and went to Texas. And many, many, many people and businesses are leaving for Texas, Nevada, Florida, bringing their politics with them, but that is for another reading. Astrologically, the timing of this makes sense. So we're going to talk about Pluto in Capricorn from 2008 to 2024. So I do have some notes here on this. So Pluto is in Capricorn for the city of Los Angeles. Pluto is the planet of destruction, exposure, transformation. So since 2008, since the real estate market crash, since the economic failures that we saw in 2008 through 2024, 2 years ago, we are seeing exposure and transformation. And the veneer, the gold gilding of Los Angeles has been flaking off, so to speak. Capricorns rule governments, institutions, corporations, and systems of authority. So since 2008, Pluto moving through Capricorn has exposed the weaknesses in the government. It's put, at times, it has put weak players into leadership positions. Industries, leadership structures across the world are also seeing this, but more acute in Los Angeles. Since Los Angeles is a city that's tied to wealth, entertainment, and power, it's experienced that pressure more intensely. This kind of transit often exposes corruption, institutional fatigue, and systems that no longer function in the way that they used to. So what we've been seeing in Los Angeles may be actually part of a much larger astrological collapse of old systems. Again, Rome falls, systems fall, Atlantis fell. All of these seats of power eventually see a turnover. We can kind of foster that. Remember, we're going to be talking about the what to wear for this astrological phenomenon that's going on. The soul of Los Angeles is actually changing. And this is where things got really interesting in the chart that I drew up and the reading that I did of that. Beginning in late 2024, one of the biggest astrological shifts of our lifetime began. Pluto entered Aquarius, and this is the permanent entry is November 19th, 2024. If there's any astrologers out there and they're wiggling on that date, you can put it in the comments down below. Aquarius rules rebellion and outsiders, unconventional leadership, internet culture, social revolution. We're seeing all of that go into the pot here. So when Pluto enters Aquarius, society begins changing who it allows to hold power. So we may see some traditional authority weaken, and we may see some voter instincts switching from one party to another if they don't like the stuff that has been going on. Outsider personalities do begin to rise. Now, Spencer Pratt, I'm going to talk about him just a little bit right here until we get into him a little bit meatier. I don't think that Spencer Pratt is a terrific person from my past. I didn't watch the show that he was on. I thought the 27,000 plastic surgery processes his wife went through when they were trying to promote her as like the next Pam Anderson, I thought that was a little irresponsible. Just my opinion. I know it's Los Angeles. I just don't think you should have that much surgery at once. She had a ridiculous amount. It wasn't 27,000, but she had a ridiculous amount of surgeries done in one day to make her into a blonde bombshell. So this transit is favoring media savvy disruptors. And I think Spencer Pratt fits that. People who understand public attention. He was a villain on his reality show. He was one of the villains. So now he's coming up as an anti-hero. And if you haven't seen it, there's an AI video of him like turning into like the Batman of Los Angeles, which is hilarious. There's a whole bunch of tomato throwing in there. It's probably going to be seen as like a threat to a leadership that's in place right now. But one of the things, people who know how to dominate the conversation, and if you watch the debate, if you watch the mayoral debate, he did dominate the conversation in there. So whether people like or hate Spencer Pratt, he may be the right player at the right time because he absolutely understands media attention. So why does Spencer Pratt fit this moment? He became famous during the rise of reality television, which I think has kind of met critical mass. I don't think we're going to be seeing too much reality television. Sorry, Harry and Meghan, I think you're too late to the game. But at the time, people viewed reality TV stars as unserious celebrities. They were kind of seen as like, I hate to say Timu celebrities because Timu wasn't a thing back in the day, but it actually became a training ground, so to speak, for platforms like YouTube, public figures like myself, and other content creators, citizen reporting, that kind of thing. It actually became the stage one for all of what we're seeing now, which is pretty cool. It was scripted to a certain extent, and a lot of your content creators like myself, we are scripted as well. I have an outline that is right here with a few scripted lines that I've already written down. So, you know, we don't just get on here and naturally present. Some of us have a modicum of talent, but you know, reality stars and content creators alike learned how to manipulate narratives, attract attention, dominate the conversation on particular subjects or public conversations long before social media like this actually came into play. So we are seeing that. The astrological timing surrounding Spencer's political visibility is really important here. So we're going to talk about what's next. March 30th, 2025, we've got Neptune is entering Aries. So Neptune is ruling collective dreams, fantasies, celebrity culture, and illusion. Politics, like it or not, it's about leading the daily lives that you and I lead, but there is a celebrity component and illusion. And this goes back into the 60s with Kennedy and Nixon and all of that. Unfortunately, politics is now embedded in that celebrity culture and the presentation of an individual. So for years, Neptune has been in Pisces, which created a very passive but emotionally confused cultural atmosphere. Now we've got Neptune entering Aries, which changes the mood dramatically. If you know any Pisces, you know that sometimes they can have a little bit of a softer play, so to speak. But Aries, more bold, dynamic, fiery, it does change the game up. People become more aggressive politically. And that is exactly what we saw with Spencer Pratt at the debate, at the mayoral debate. They begin to fire up the crowd, and the crowd, the public, is primed with this astrological influence to be more aggressive, and they crave fighters instead of polished images and soft players that are kind of answering what you want, not what they can actually execute. And we see this also, this is reflected on a larger scale with President Trump coming back into power. So right now, astrologically, somebody like Spencer Pratt and somebody like President Donald Trump are going to fit the energy that we are dealing with in the astrological climate more so than someone who is passive, answering to an overlord, that kind of thing. So I think this is very, very interesting. I'm going to pull up some cards right now, and we're just going to see how Spencer's mindset is, because mindset is everything in life, guys. And let's see what his mindset is right now. I ain't going nowhere. So Spencer Pratt and his wife Heidi Montag lost their home in the Palisades fire. They have been living in a trailer. The imagery on one of his advertisements is significant because he is standing in front of his trailer and he says, "This is where Karen Bass lives. This is where I've lived for the last year. For me and my children, we have been stuck here and unable to rebuild." So he is really playing very, very hard into the hand where he's not going anywhere. He is not going anywhere. And this is his mindset of not going anywhere. I'm the devil that you're stuck with. I'm the loud voice that's going to say, allow us to rebuild, allow us to get back in, allow us to live. So what is his best asset for this? Page of Wands, the Palisades fires, absolutely. What is his worst asset? He doesn't have a lot of backing. Just for fun, can he get Donald Trump on board with him to give him some backing? Absolutely. Donald Trump would love to have a little chit chat with Spencer Pratt. I can't believe I'm saying this, guys. We've seen other things like this, like Ronald Reagan when he ran for president. A lot of people, what do you mean, the actor? What do you mean? Also, Sonny Bono went through some of this, and he famously was in political leadership as well. I like Sonny Bono. I lived in Lake Tahoe when the day that he had his accident and passed away. So is Los Angeles ready for this change? So, when we look at cities, countries, even real estate listings, I have a lot of realtors that work with me. When we look at real estate listings, we can always look at the city or the entity of what we're talking about as an individual. So is Los Angeles ready for this kind of change? So another major shift began in 2025 and it becomes permanent in 2026, where we are right now. Saturn is going to enter Aries. It started May 24th, 2025. Permanent entry is February 13th, 2026. So we're in it. Saturn represents pressure, accountability, and consequences. Aries is aggressive, direct, and impatient. But when Saturn enters Aries, people stop wanting to talk about it. They want to be about it. So they start demanding action. I think that the situation downtown LA has become impassable, let's put it that way. And I had a very, very good friend, a filmmaker who lived in downtown LA, who's from the East Coast, and he had a loft style apartment there, which is, they're few and far between in Los Angeles. And apparently Cardboard City down there is impassable. It is just a mess. There are lots of different substances that the populace in Cardboard City is they're involved in, and it's creating a lot of issues. Spencer Pratt did discuss that there is some maltreatment of animals going on down there as well, which I was very upset about. I have not heard about that. I'm glad I hadn't heard about it because it's very upsetting to me. But we are at the point where the population is going to start demanding action. So this transit creates frustration with weak leadership and bureaucracy. It also increases support for outsider candidates who represent themselves as fighter. And Spencer Pratt is doing this. So in terms of this energy, let's take a look. I'm just going to look at Spencer Pratt and Karen Bass because I think that that's really the battle here. So Spencer Pratt, is he in alignment with this energy? And Karen Bass, let's see. Spencer, yep, he's breaking out of the mold. Karen Bass wants to keep doing things the old way. And if you watch the debate, you'll see that she doesn't get, she's like, it depends. Like there's a lot of things that she says it depends on. So astrologically, we might be reaching a point where Los Angeles wants voters to become more willing to gamble on unconventional leadership. What is the population leaning toward right now? The polls have shown a big number, and I'll drop that after I drop this card. So is the population leaning towards Spencer unconventional? Absolutely. It's a brand new day, baby doll. We are getting there. So after the debate, there was a poll that said about 87% thought that Spencer won that debate. So, and I'm going to say so. It's actually a really good debate. If you guys want to watch it, go watch it. I can link a link to it. It was actually really, really good. It was not that long. So I think that is a good deal. So, does this all mean that Spencer has an easy path to victory? Right now, if we all got to vote today, all of Los Angeles got to vote today, would it be an easy path to victory for him? Absolutely. They're looking for this guy. But what does that tell us about his success? Will the system allow him to be successful if elected? If elected, will the system allow him to be effective? He'll be stymied. And he's going to be angry. And he's going to present disclosure about the way things are in Los Angeles. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. Again, this is an if he is allowed to win, if he gets the votes, if he gets into office, he is going to have some issues with the old vanguard holding him back from doing all that he can for wholesale changing the political structures and the management of the city. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. So how is that system going to resist him? So, Los Angeles is deeply tied to media influence, celebrity culture, political networking. We just saw Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, posted a picture. It was a meme of Trump in a grave, and has partnered up with Barack Obama, in some promotional videos. And they're really using the poster boy for Star Wars. They're really using him to press an idea forward. So will Spencer be able to counter that kind of celebrity push? We've seen this with Robert De Niro as well, some other political figures that are very anti-conservative, anti-Republican, anti-Trump, anti-MAGA. So will Spencer be able to work against that? Is he going to be able to work against that at all? What's his success rate? I think the more he does, the more they try and push him out of power or dilute his power. So my advice to him, if he gets in, he's going to have to lean into the federal government. And I do think that this becomes an issue for the Los Angeles. I don't think that they want the federal government coming in and pushing legal things. So do we have an issue with the governor, whomever that may be? Do we have an issue? Will the governor come in and say, hey, mayor, you can't do that? I do think that we get some pushback, but it's going to be, and like, you know, with Gavin Newsom has been someone who uses the media as a tool. And I think that the effort would not be so much to take him out of power, but to chip away at that power through media, to immediately underscore the failure of Spencer Pratt's initiatives when they don't even get off the ground. I think that is something that we are going to see. And I do think that they will promote an individual who has made much more headway working with the system, not going against the tide. So I think that he is going to clash with Governor whomever, whether it's Gavin Newsom or another person. I think that Spencer's going to clash with that, because I do think that he's going to tap into federal resources and federal friendships, whether it's with Donald Trump or another individual in the current federal administration. I think he's going to experience some difficulty there. I think there's going to be definitely some media campaign to be critical of him, in the same fashion that they did to Ronald Reagan and Sonny Bono, like, ha 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 ha, they're actors and now they're just acting on a political stage. So I think it's going to be very interesting. Let's take a look at the election energy. So that we're looking at June 30th. Jupiter is in Leo. So Jupiter is expanding visibility, popularity, and public attention. So Leo rules over performance, celebrity, charisma, which I think Spencer Pratt has in spades. I think he really does have that in spades. Jupiter enters Leo and then strongly favors larger than life personalities. Trump is an example of one of those. Spencer Pratt is pretty mouthy. He made some pretty funny faces. He was rolling his eyes during the debate. Is Spencer the guy that fits this Jupiter in Leo energy? Is Spencer the guy? There's that Knight of Wands again. Guys, we keep getting this. I want to stress in tarot, the Knight of Wands is a doer. He's the guy who goes out there. If you say you want to build a tree house, he shows up first thing in the morning, 8 a.m. with coffee. He's got a 12-pack of beer and a cooler, and he's got a whole bunch of wood and nails, and maybe he brought a couple friends with him. He's there. He's going to start the project. He's going to start to get it done. He's going to do the heavy lifting with you at the beginning. So, yes, I do think that he suits this energy. What about Karen Bass? Let's look at Karen Bass. Karen Bass asleep at the wheel. She doesn't have the charisma. She doesn't have the pizzazz. She doesn't have the flash to get out there. I do think that not being in the country at the time of the Palisades fires does create an issue. That was a campaign promise. She promised she wasn't going to leave. I think the country or the city or California, when she was elected, and then in their darkest, flamiest hour, she was not there. So I think that she does present a little less of a dynamic, flashy character than Spencer Pratt. She's older than him, I believe. So we've got a fresh, young face with a family and an invested interest in bringing Hollywood back to life, bringing the old Hollywood, the production Hollywood back to life. So I think that energy is going to suit him much, much, much more. So this particular transit, is Jupiter going into Neptune, favors those who naturally command attention, the people with the it factor. In my opinion, I don't think that Karen Bass has the it factor. She just doesn't. You're not going to look for her in a room right away. People like Spencer Pratt, Britney Spears, Mel Gibson, Madonna. You look at them first. You walk into a room, they command attention. They walk into the room, all heads turn. So I think this is going to fit him a little bit better. Let's talk about Uranus entering Gemini. So this will be permanent on April, or it is permanent on April 25th, 2026. Uranus revolutionizes whatever it touches. So Gemini rules communication, media, messaging. Uranus is going to come in and revolutionize that. It's going to favor viral communication, internet-driven politics, and unconventional campaign strategies. So again, take a look at the AI video of Spencer Pratt becoming this Batman-like character. The astrology of 2026 is really supporting unpredictable political outcomes, outsider messaging. We are going to see some interesting things. So does Spencer Pratt have some more viral messaging for all of us? Does he have some more viral messaging for all of us? I don't think we're going to see more viral messaging as much as we're going to see promotion of continued viral messaging. He's going to be seen as a Bruce Wayne character. We're going to see him as an anti-hero, as someone who is coming in to save the day, maybe like a Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save the day. He wants to pull down the old structures. He wants to recreate the world in which he lives and in which his cohorts, constituents live. So is he the answer to Los Angeles and its woes? Astrologically, what's fascinating for me is that the city appears to be entering a period of unconventional leadership where the impossible becomes possible. And the old Hollywood era of this polished kind of politician, it does seem to be weakening astrologically. Los Angeles may be entering a more rebellious phase, a more unpredictable and outside of political structures kind of cycle. So that means it's primed for an actor to come in and make change. So whether Spencer Pratt ultimately wins, that may not be the bigger story. The bigger story is that Los Angeles is becoming the kind of city where someone like Spencer Pratt or Sonny Bono or Ronald Reagan could enter a political conversation and could jump into that. Historically, periods of major social instability produce very unusual political figures. Donald Trump, I posit Donald Trump, very, very strange and unusual character. On the night that he was elected, I fell asleep before the results were in, and Greg came home from work and I said, "So what happened?" And he goes, "You're not going to believe it." And I go, "Oh my God, Hillary won." And he goes, "No." And I said, "Donald Trump won?" We just entered The Simpsons. So I do think that we have a very interesting thing that's coming up with our dude, Spencer Pratt. So before I finish it up, I just want to do one quick look, and I'm going to switch it up because we're going to have some extra cards here. We're going to go away from the mystical medleys, and we're going to go to my smaller Rider-Waite deck. Spencer Pratt, what is your good fortune right now? Let's see. Let's see what we got for Spencer Pratt. Spencer Pratt, what do we got for you, my man? This is what his energy is today. He's not looking back. Oh my goodness. Look at you, Spencer Pratt. I think he's doing all of the right things in the moment. And this is why. Right now, he's not looking back at any of the criticisms or attacks that have been made on his character or his person in the past. So, pardon me for bringing up the plastic surgery on your wife. Sorry about that, Mayor Pratt. I think we're going to be calling him Mayor Pratt. He is looking to cultivate, nurture, and bring to life a new change. Here, I do think at some point he was ready to abandon the city of Los Angeles. I think he was ready to abandon it. And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. This is a city where we can tap into those veins of gold and celebrity and wonderful, moneyed abundance, land of milk and honey. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. That's what he said. He's sticking around and he's going to do this. No looking back, no saying no. He understands that slow and steady wins the race. So a lot of tortoise energy here, not rabbit energy. He is going to be going slow and steady to get to his end result. He understands that pressure. When we get the strength card is pressure that creates diamonds. That's what we're doing. We are doing a slow pressure. It's like stretching a muscle here. Up top, he is riding high and laying low on the debate, which I think is great for him. I think that this is a good place for him to be. He's watching the numbers grow. He's watching people ask questions. I do think he's keeping a finger on the pulse of his social media, and I think he's interacting but via social media. So I don't know if he has a Substack or a Discord group or whatever, but he is actually working with people, going back and forth and talking about things. Here, transformation. He is not going to change the person that he is. So if he is a professional jerk, he's going to remain a professional jerk, but he's going to be a professional jerk who gets the job done, which I think is great. Not a bad thing to be a professional jerk, in my opinion. Sometimes you need the right tool for the right job. So in conclusion, I think that Spencer Pratt is doing all of the right things in the moment. Is there anything that he does need to do for this weekend, Spencer Pratt? Again, don't transform. Don't turn into the politician. Stay with the professional jerk that you are. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I was not a fan of his show. I was not a fan of Heidi and Spencer at all. I just was not a fan of them. I think it's very interesting that he is in the running now. I don't think he should change. So don't change for you. Don't change a thing for me, for my INXS fans out there. So I think this is going to be a very interesting month or so that we're going to have here with Spencer Pratt, potential mayor of Los Angeles. But I'm curious what you guys think. I know this is a very specified reading for Americans and for Los Angelines specifically, the Los Angelinos. But having lived there and having loved the city to a certain extent, I do think that something does need to change. I have far too many friends that have moved out of Los Angeles after decades of living there or a lifetime of living there. So something needs to change. One of the most interesting stories my friend Sean told me was that the food delivery robots were on Melrose were being assaulted by homeless people. And there's one particular homeless guy who had a beef with a food delivery robot named Nathaniel. The food delivery robots have names on them. And there was one named Nathaniel that this one individual person, this homeless person, had a beef with, and it was right outside my friend's house. And he said, "Oh, I'm going to get you, Nathaniel, one of these days." And the food delivery robots were being beaten up and taken apart. I don't know if they were taking food out of them or they just didn't like them because they were noisy. I have no idea. But I think the war of the food delivery robots and the unhoused homeless people is a very interesting one that was going on in Los Angeles. So my friend Sean said after a while, I cannot raise my child here. This is crazy. And I'm out of here. And he came back to the East Coast too with his family. So it's great to have him back. But I want to know what you think. If you are from Los Angeles, tell me what you think of Spencer Pratt running. I think it is wild, but the Chinese say, may you live in interesting times. And we certainly do. It has been crazy town here in the United States since 2026. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, drop them down below because we are going to keep an eye on this. I think the changing of the guard in Los Angeles is going to be one for the history books. I do think we are headed toward significant change, unusual change with this unusual candidate. So let me know what you think. In the meantime, I am open all day today. It is Saturday for instant readings. What does that mean? There's a link in the description of this video and also pinned in the comments, and you can book with 5-minute notice for me. I'm going to be sitting at my computer all day. If you want a reading, I'm here waiting for you. You can book in advance. You can book 5 minutes in advance, and I will be here. Also, I still have, I have 15-minute, 30-minute sessions open all day long today for a treat. You can still get the hour session. And reminder, every week I have 3 pay what you can readings that are available. This is to make my services as accessible for anyone. If you're experiencing financial issues, you want to ask financial questions, we can do that. But it's a half-hour reading. You pay what you can. Sometimes people need a little bit of help, and I want to make sure that I am accessible for any price point. Also, we have text message and WhatsApp readings that you can book 7 days a week, where I can give you a real quick answer in real time as you schedule it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed this. We are getting back to work, and I'm glad to be back here. So have a great day. And if I don't talk to you before tomorrow, have a happy, happy American Mother's Day. I'll see you guys soon.